relationship with the seller,
Okay.
and be on time.
Right.
On time is very important, because a lot of time people make an appointment, and by the time they get there or they don't show up, the car is sold, and then they call back and say, why did you sell your car? Well, because you didn't come
Sure.
to see the car.
Sure.
So that's my idea, and that's my
Okay.
recommendation.
All right, and before we get to 6 through 10, I want to ask you a question that may or may not be in your final 5 tips there, but can you go over for our listening audience? And by the way, we are talking to Nader Gilani in his premiere show all about cars. He's been in the car business for 30 some years, so he knows what he's talking about. And today Nader is giving us his top 10 tips on buying a car. We've been through the first 5. If you're just joining us now, go back and listen to the first 15 minutes of the show, and you'll be there. But Nader, before we get through 6 through 10,
Yes, sir.
can you give me an overview of the relative advantages and disadvantages of buying from a private individual if you're looking for a used car, or a small dealership? Give me some
Right.
advantages and disadvantages for both.
Well, the advantage buying from a used car dealer is that already the dealer by law have to go through all these 10 tips that I was
Okay,
giving you.
all right.
They already make sure that the car is in a good condition. They have to have a smoke for it. They have to make sure the brakes are fine, the tires, all the safety feature, and of course doesn't have any oil leaks. So the good car dealership, a used decent car dealership like the one I have, we go through all that before even we market the car. So that is a good advantage. You don't have to go through all that legwork and research and everything, because we did already that for you. But if you're going through this advantage from buying a private, that you have to do all that research, all that hard work.
Is there an advantage to going through a private?
Well, not really. A lot of people think, well, I'm gonna go buy a car from a private because I will save money on the fee, so-called DMV fees. And I understand where they come from. They wanna basically say, okay, I bought this car for a certain amount of money, so they can save a few $100 on the fees.
Right.
But they can end up buying a car that will basically make them lose way more money, because the guy was not honest enough to tell him all the problem about the car.
Right, which is why you would want to take it to a mechanic and everything.
Absolutely.
Is there more overhead in a dealership that would make it more advantageous to go through a private owner, or do the dealers take that into account and are competitive with private owners? Do they check that stuff out, or how does that work?
Well, no, it's pretty much competitive, but the only safe way is to buy it from a dealership, because especially a smaller car dealership, we don't have as much overhead as a larger dealership, obviously. So our prices are much more closer to the private than a new car dealer, because new car dealership or a large dealership, they have more overhead, and they will sell you the same car for much more money. And I understand why. They have more employees, they have more overhead, so they cannot compare, or they cannot come so close to my prices, because if they do, they will basically lose money.
Okay.
So this
Awesome.
is
And next week I want to talk about why it may not ever be a good idea to buy a brand new car. So can we talk about that next week?
absolutely.
Okay. Next week,
yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I love shiny new cars and they look great at the dealership, but there are a lot of compelling reasons why you might want to rethink that, and Nader will, I'm going to be interviewing him for a couple of shows here, and then he'll be out on his own, but But that's a question that I think a lot of people don't necessarily, understand. The car dealers are all over the airways with their commercials, and it all looks great. And sometimes buying a new car may not be all that it's cracked up to be for a variety of reasons. I've had a couple of millionaires tell me that. So I want to explore that with Nader, who's much more of a car expert than myself. And if we can get into that next week, Nader,
that would be absolutely awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah, okay. We will get that too. And I appreciate your time, Mr. Brook. You are so kind, and we are having good time here, fun at your studio.
Yeah, and as I said, in my little interview of you on my show last week, that it's an honor and a privilege. Not everyone gets to be a host on the Coach on Fire Radio Network. So, and we've never had a car show before, so this is kind of cool. You'll be able to get into a lot of different things.
Absolutely, cars are really fun
and stuff and things of that sort. So it's going to be a fun show, and we're very, very happy to have you on the Coach on Fire Radio Network. So let's get into our final 5 tips.
Okay.
And you've already done 5. So what's your 6th tip for?
Well, my 6th tip is when you are looking for a car, of course, you make sure that the car never, hasn't been in a very major accident.
And how do I tell that?
Well, as I said, Carfax will tell you, but if you're really professional, you have to basically, by looking at the car, you will know pretty much if the car been in a very major accident, especially if the car is a frame damage. It will never drive the same. Mm-hmm. It will always be a lot of wear and tear on the tires, because the frame is not straight, and it will put a lot of stress on the tires of the car.
Okay.
So
visual observation, and then of course always ask.
Always ask. The best thing is to always ask.
And then verify with a Carfax?
Right. Trust but verify.
There you go. An old line from my former boss, President Ronald Reagan. Trust
exactly. That is my favorite president.
Yes, I know. President. You mentioned that in the
God
last
bless
show,
him, and I really like him, and he did so many good things for the country that I am coming originally from.
Absolutely, and as you know, that I worked for him for many years back in Washington, D.C., and I happen to agree with you. One of the best presidents the United States has ever seen, but this is not a political show. You and I could talk about this, as we have off the air all day long.
Absolutely.
But we're talking about cars, and we've gone through 6 great tips.
Sure.
And your 7th tip would be?
My 7th tip would be to go and basically make sure the VIN numbers are all attached all around the car. Right now, the newer cars, every parts that they put on the car, especially doors, hood, fenders, front bumper, rear bumper, they all have the same VIN number. So if somebody altered or removed it by because of the accident, due to an accident, they will not match the VIN.
Okay, how do are those VIN numbers visual?
They're very visible. They're visual. You can open.
Where would I find them on, say, a fender or something?
Exactly. On the fender, normally when you open the hood of the car, right on the side, right next to the engine compartment, so you can see there is a VIN number, and then on the door, it's in the bottom, right where the locking mechanism is. Right there, it will have the VIN number. On the bumper, it's right on the center of the bumper. When you open the hood, it will show. So it's pretty much visible. And I think they did that on purpose. The car, which is a good thing. Well, I'm really happy that car manufacturer, they thought about it and they put that there.
And you said later model cars. Do you know when they started doing that? Because if it's an older car, then I don't have to worry about that. So what year did they start including VINs on virtually every part?
I think it'd been around for about more than 7 years.
Okay, so
So
anything pre-2012 maybe?
Absolutely.
Or post-2000, after 2012.
Exactly, or post-2000. I'm not 100% sure, but I know at least for 7 or 8 years that I remember, they've been doing that. So it's a good for me. That's very important, because when I purchase car, I look at that. I make sure. By the way, I do all that hard work, the leg work, and the experience that a buyer needs to do. I already done it, and then my cars are here in the lot ready to.
Of course, here at your lot in
exactly
in San Marcos, and we'll talk about that in just a second here. But let's get to your 8th tip.
Okay, my 8th tip is also the paint job. If the car been in an accident, it's very hard to match the paint unless you take it to really, really professional people, which, by the way, I do have those people connected to me, which one day I'm gonna invite them in my show too. There's a very good auto paint shop that I recommend in San Marcos, California, which is a good friend of mine. They have their business. It's a family-owned business for a long time. I send all my cars to them too. They do an excellent job. They almost maybe 95% they can match the paint. 100% it's impossible, because the old paint is already, due to the sunlight and all that, and the new paint always gonna be a little bit different. But this guy can do almost 95%. So yeah.
And you are fast becoming a car expert around the world on the Coach on Fire radio network here. But you do have if anyone is listening in San Diego County, North County in particular, Carlsbad, Encinitas, Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, Escondido, any of the towns in or around North County, or all of San Diego County, Nader does have a private, by appointment only dealership with some awesome cars, and you are located here in San Marcos, Nader. And can you give us the address?
Sure, it's 867 West San Marcos Boulevard. It's very easy. We are right off of the closest exit to Highway 78, Freeway 78. Right. So we're right off ramp, and anybody can find us. Our location, we are actually in the heart of San Marcos.
Right, and it is a private, exclusive, by appointment only dealership, so you're not always here. Right. And there's no signage out there. So what is the phone number that if people wanted to reach you and see what you had to offer in terms of cars, where they can just call you or text you and ask you some questions and maybe set an appointment to come and see what you've got? So if you could provide our phone number to the listening audience that we have here in San Diego County, that would be absolutely awesome.
Sure, our phone number, area code 760-580-2277. And also I made it so easy because I have this phone number for a long time. It's 760-580-CARS. So it's 580 cars. It's the easiest number to remember. Right. Yeah, so that's my phone number. And
Nader is in the process of developing a Facebook business page. He's going to be doing some auto tips and things with visualization on Facebook Live in the coming weeks, so we will announce that on the air here as well. And we are talking to Nader Gilani in his brand new premiere show, All About Cars, on the Coach on Fire radio network. And we've been talking about 10 tips to buy an awesome used car. And we've gone through 8 as we stand right now. So we've got the final 2 as we begin to wrap up here.
Sure.
So what is number 9, Nader?
The number 9 tip that I can give also, the mileage of the car is very important.
Yes, of course.
The
Something
mileage,
very obvious,
right.
Yeah.
And you always want to ask the seller if this is original miles on this car. And if they say, well, I don't know, and then the best way is, again, we can go back to Carfax, and the Carfax will tell you if the mileage has been altered or it's original mile. So that's a very important tip. So we are at almost,
number 10. Do we have a drum roll?
Exactly, 10 tips.
I don't think I have a drum roll cued on the sound effects there. But maybe we need to do that for next time. I can cue a drum roll. So
Sure.
I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's a drum roll. Very bad impression of a drum roll. But nevertheless, what is number 10?
Number 10 tip is that when you go and